in advance. State Rep Jimmy Fondren is joining us now on SuperTalk Mississippi from Jackson County, District 111. It's nice to meet you, sir. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Our mutual friend Jim Ladner told me it's your first year in the State House and that you are sitting at the desk that was formerly occupied by John Grisham. Is that right?
That's what I've been told. Jim Estrada. He's my desk mate, and
Jim Estrada. Sorry,
that's right. That's right. I think he might have married a Ladner. There's a lot of Ladners down here.
Married a Ladner, right? Yeah.
But yeah, they're telling me I've got to write a novel, so I better get to writing.
What would your book be about, other than maybe the corruption in the city of Jackson this year?
I think it'd be very Grisham-esque. He has done a great job of painting the legal scene of Mississippi, so I think you'd have to keep that one going.
What's the big bill you're working on right now? Obviously, and the 2 or 3 shows that I've done here on Super Talk Mississippi, we've talked a lot about online sports betting. Is that going to get done?
I don't know. I don't think it'll get done this year. I hope it does in the near future. I think it's an opportunity that we're missing out on as a state. I think that you've got, Mississippians, whether they're driving right across the line to go to other states or whether they're just flat out illegally gambling. I can tell you, people are on books, people are running books, and people are using these illegal websites to bet, tens of millions of dollars a year. And, the state is, number one, not able to regulate it. And number two, not seeing a dime out of any of that would go towards roads, bridges, and important things that people could use. So I hope we get a deal done in the near future. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen this year. I certainly support it, though.
Yeah, and there are some great casinos throughout the state of Mississippi that have some great sports books there that could do in-house in casino gambling, but a lot of people don't live anywhere close to a casino that want to participate in it. And if it's not available online, they're going to go where they can bet online. And there are overseas sites, backroom deals that you could do. And with a 12% tax on online wagering, that could be like $40 to $80 million for the state.
Yeah, that's and I understand, some of the fears are that this is just the beginning of iGaming. That it'll harm our brick and mortar casinos. People will just, play blackjack on their phone. And, I understand some of that. I just don't think that's the intent of the House that has passed this bill. I don't think people want to see that. I think people want to support our casino industry, and that this is something that, won't interfere with that in a big way. And so,
You can't get the all-you-can-eat crab leg buffet from Boomtown online.
That's right. We went over there and had breakfast yesterday, and yeah, you can't get that from your iPhone.
State Rep Jimmy Fondren here on Super Talk Mississippi. I am going to ask you some stupid questions, I'm sure, because being in Ohio, I haven't been following everything that you're working on in the State House. But I am a big fan of Gulf Coast seafood. We've got a fantastic restaurant up here in Toledo that actually, the guys from the New Orleans area brings in some Gulf shrimp, which I love. But Jimmy, this is awful. This is sacrilegious. His oysters are from the Pacific Coast. They're not Gulf oysters. And I know that some oyster snobs may say they taste better, but there's nothing better than a Gulf oyster.
I agree. We've been working to make Mississippi's oyster reef strong again. And I think the chairman's he's headed towards the right direction. I think that, for, I don't know how long, maybe a decade now, we have hardly been able to harvest anything. And, now there's oyster companies down here that are putting out a really good product. And I hope we can continue to do that. I hope that the policies that we're putting in place, I hope they're, contributing to that. And yeah, you're right. I love a Gulf oyster. I love an East Coast oyster too, but I love a Gulf oyster.
So what's the deal with the seafood labeling bill? What is this all about? How does this affect the people of Mississippi?
It's very similar to, and the approach that was tried to take is like our U.S. or our farm raised catfish. Throughout Mississippi, you'll see, Mississippi farm raised catfish when they're selling it. Really, it's just to clarify that, the product that we're selling is not only from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but, we're supporting our fishermen, we're supporting our local industry. And just to be honest, there was a study that was done where just a ton of restaurants on the coast, surprisingly, were not selling Gulf Coast seafood. Whether they were trying to save money, whether they were in a bind or trying to fill their menu up with whatever product they could get at the time. I don't know the answer to that, but I think that we need to be transparent on what we're selling if we're going to take so much pride in Mississippi and Mississippi Gulf Coast seafood, and we need to support our fishermen as much as we can. And I think that this labeling bill is consumer friendly, and it'll help the customer know what they're really getting and what they're paying for is worth it.
So this is more for the consumer side. So if you walk into a restaurant, you know where that catfish came from.
Absolutely. That the restaurants had some concern about, the cost it would take to implement that. And we did not want it to be a burden on them. So, we've done everything we can to just make it very easy to implement. Put a sign at the front, tell us what you're selling. And everything was trying to be consumer friendly, but also commercial fisherman friendly, trying to support our local industry down here on that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, as a guy that loves the coast seafood, I would be more likely to go into a restaurant that had Mississippi catfish or Mississippi seafood than something from out of state. And I would love to see the seafood industry be able to export more of that seafood to other states as well.
Yes, that's the goal. And they need to run it out of Pascagoula. We got the best port to do it right here in Pascagoula. So hopefully we can get that going.
What are your favorite seafood restaurants in Pascagoula?
I love Off the Hook, Bozo's, Brady's. I mean, all three of those are just great. You can't miss. I don't know if you've ever been to Bozo's. It's kind of legendary, but been eating their shrimp po' boys since I could walk, I guess. And Brady's is a newer restaurant, and the family has come in. They've done a great job with several restaurants down here. Off the Hook is amazing. They sell, real good coast seafood product. Know the guy, know where it comes from, definitely. And Zach's is opening soon, so I'm excited to see what that has to offer. I think he's going to do a great job. He was the cook at Off the Hook for a long time, and I think he's finally branching out to do his own thing. So I encourage everybody to come eat some seafood down here in Pascagoula.
I'm trying to remember the last time I was in Pascagoula and where I may have eaten. The last time I was on the coast, I know I went to Half Shell, which has kind of become a chain, and I think it's called Table 40 or something near the courthouse in Gulfport. But Trapani's in Bay St. Louis was always the fancy place to go to when I was down there.
Yeah, I've never been there. I don't know if I could swing that one. That's Bay St. Louis. It's about an hour from us.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they've got some good places too. They really do.
So we're talking to State Rep Jimmy Fondren here on Super Talk Mississippi Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands. You're also in the Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Vice Chair. There has to be some important tidelands legislation you're working on too. And actually,
yeah. So
I just realized that the time. Give me a quick answer on that, and can you stick around for another segment?
For sure. Yeah, we can catch it on the back after the break. But we're working on some tidelands legislation that that might have to come back in a later year, and we got some good things working in wildlife too. But we can catch up on those after the break, Scott.
Sounds good. I also want to talk about shipbuilding and the importance of the president's initiative to build up the U.S. Navy. More with Jimmy Fondren, State Rep from District 111, here on Mornings with Richard Cross and Super Talk Mississippi. It's great to be here on this Monday morning after Daylight Savings Time. I'm Scott Sands in for Richard Cross. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media, The Scott Sands Show on Facebook, of course, all of the SuperTalk platforms as well, and streaming everywhere, supertalk.fm. Mississippi State Rep Jimmy Fondren from Jackson County, District 111, here on the Scott Sand Show, and for Richard Cross. I almost said the name of my old radio station, and it would cost me a couple of bucks. So I'm surprised I haven't done that yet. Jimmy, I appreciate you hanging out with us. Speaking of daylight savings time, real quick, any action in Mississippi to do something if the federal government refuses to?
What was that? I'm sorry, I lost you.
Any consideration in the State House to take action on daylight savings time if federal government doesn't do anything?
I don't know. I really don't. I'm not opposed to it. I'll more daylight for me is great. But it has not been a conversation, even if it is on a national level.
Yeah, I think I saw a text on the C Spire text line. Lance is a hunter. I used to hunt. I haven't been on a few years, but certainly would affect hunting hours in Mississippi when deer season comes around.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it.
I wanted to keep you around for a segment because Tuesday night in his address to Congress, President Trump announced a White House Office of Shipbuilding to resurrect the American maritime industry. And as you know, Pascagoula and the Gulf Coast, home to some of the nation's largest shipbuilding operations. We are at a distinct disadvantage numerically to the Chinese right now. These numbers may not be completely accurate, but I believe the U.S. Navy has about 290 warships and the Chinese Navy has about 370. Ours may be better, stronger, more powerful. We have more weaponry, more technology, but we need more ships as well to defend our country, especially if we're getting involved everywhere else. This could be a huge economic boon for the coast.
That's right. I went fishing Saturday, and we were, fishing all around Ingalls, the shipyard out there, and what they're doing over there is amazing. I believe it was last year they got awarded, it was $9.6 billion worth of shipbuilding contracts last year. I think that's correct. It could have been more, but you're right though, not only the amount of ships that are coming off that line, but I've got a friend that he's a Navy veteran, and he was riding with me a few weeks ago out there and telling me about the technology they have on these things, whether it was when he was in the Navy or new technology that they're putting on them. It is incredible what those ships can do, and it's special that we're building the most advanced naval warfare ships right here in the state of Mississippi. But it's not only Ingalls, now Bollinger's growing. They're building the first icebreaker in the United States, and I think over 50 years, in conjunction with the government. And we're in a unique position with Wicker and his chairmanship, and he understands the importance of Ingalls. He was down here a few months ago. I saw him at the shipyard for a World War II heritage city. They were honoring Pascagoula for their efforts in shipbuilding, and he's all about it. He's all in, and I think that he's the type of guy that wants to see Mississippi win, and he'll do whatever he can to make sure that Ingalls is building Navy ships and nobody else.
Yeah, Senator Wicker certainly in a great position to help the coast and help Ingalls and Bollinger. What I don't know if you know this. What ships are coming out of Ingalls these days?
Last christening I went to, I think it was LH8, and I can't remember what all they're building right now. I saw a destroyer out there not long ago. I saw the reason I remember it is because I had that new laser technology that my buddy was telling me about, which if you haven't seen is pretty impressive. But I don't know what's all over there right now, but it's impressive to go look at if you have the time to do it.
It's got to be one of the largest employers in Jackson County.
Yeah, at one point it was the largest in the state, if I remember right. I think it's definitely the largest employer in Jackson County. We're lucky to have a lot of good industry in Pascagoula. We've got them. We've got Chevron. Plenty of shipbuilding opportunities, plenty of energy-based opportunities. It helps us a lot, and we're thankful to have that down here.
I'm glad you mentioned the energy output from Jackson County as well, because obviously with the tariff wars that may or may not be happening, depending on what day it is, and the president's call for American energy independence. Right now, I believe Mississippi is responsible for 2%, give or take, of the American energy output, and that could easily increase.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that number, but that's great. We're lucky. I mean, Chevron Pascagoula is their biggest U.S. refinery, and so a lot of people don't realize that, but it's good.
We were talking before the break about the tidelands and some of the important legislation you're working on there.
That's right. I think that bill is very important to the coast. For one thing, I don't know how exactly I got into that, working on it as a freshman legislator last year, and now spending a lot more time on it this year. But the tidelands language, when it was enacted, is very vague, very ambiguous. It has been open to so many court interpretations. And when the legislature passed this, and around 1990, they made the Secretary of State the trustee over the tidelands lands. But what they didn't do is clarify that he has the authority to manage and approve leases and do all this. They said it's the state, and I think the language is political subdivisions or something along that line. And we need to bring clarity to tidelands, and it's gonna help with our casino industry. People like MGM, Hard Rock. We're not going to see more of those type of companies come in and want to invest if it's a wreck. What's going on? Who do we get a lease from? What are we doing? And I think we have to get our stuff together on tidelands, and it's important to the coast as a whole.
So break it down and explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader, and why this is important to manage better than the state already is, and from an environmental standpoint as well. I mean, obviously, the barrier islands have been damaged over the years by hurricanes, tropical storms, and the weather. But is that involved in the environmental impact as well, or is it mainly about money?
So the tidelands, they don't really extend all the way to the barrier islands. That's kind of I guess, Horn Island, I think it would be a national seashore national park, but the tidelands would be, something you could see from the front beach, the where it ebbs and flows is what the legislation says. And the most important thing is it's unclear about who has the authority to manage all these lands, whether it be, city harbors. We try to make sure that we give the cities the right to manage their harbors in this legislation with the tidelands lease. But if you're going to give authority to the Secretary of State to manage all the tidelands as the trustee, then it needs to be very clear that that's the office you need to go through to get whatever you want to do on these tidelands approved. And that's what the casinos are paying leases on. That's why they've got to be right on the water. So I just think that there's a lot of ambiguous language, and it's getting pushed right now, like you said, just to break it down for everybody, because of a lot of recent court rulings, how they're interpreting the old Tidelands Act, and they're interpreting it in a way that I can't blame them, that, pretty much any government entity in Mississippi can approve these leases or tell you how much. It's a nightmare. It could be a county, a city, the state as a whole, and we've got to clarify that. So I hope we can do that soon. But there's a lot of things I hope we can do. I hope we can get that through. I hope we can get mobile sports betting through, and maybe we'll get an income tax too. Come on.
That would be nice. But I think the tidelands is indicative of a much larger problem where courts are making laws where the legislature should be stepping in with some more clarity so that it's not being decided by the courts. And I think also, government in general needs to streamline the process for businesses to make the state, make the county more business friendly.
That's the biggest thing is, if I was a corporation, I wouldn't want to put my money in somewhere that I'm not real sure who's the boss to say, who's making the final calls. I wouldn't I wouldn't go as far to blame the courts one bit. I think that they're doing a great job of interpreting the law for what it is. But the problem is, for what it is not clear, and we've got to clarify it. But that's a great point.
State Rep Jimmy Fondren here on Mornings with Richard Cross. I'm Scott Sands. So nice to meet you. I appreciate your time. Send me some crawfish.
I will. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate your time.